All right. Once again, everybody, welcome to this week's masterclass. As always, and we have a lot of new people this week. So just really quick, if you're here with us live, pull up the Q&A tab. And if you're on replay, go ahead and pull up like a notepad, app, pen and paper, Google Doc, whatever works best for you. The more you actually participate, the more you'll implement and, of course, put it into action, which is the most important part of the classes. Now, this week's kind of a bonus week. We always do kind of an ask us anything. We kind of throw in some skills within your questions, and a couple questions have come in a little bit late. So if they're not covered, or I'll go through and make sure that they match up, I'll definitely bring those up at the end. And if you're with us live, go and pull up the Q&A tab and we will answer those as well. But let's get into this week's class. And also, as always, if you have any issues with accessing any of your bonus audios or homework, feel free to let us know. Okay, what it is, we asked this week, why don't new team members invest time and energy into learning new skills? And with just over 50%, actually 52%, was the first one. We didn't know there were skills to learn. The wing it attitude, just go out to talk to people. We've all heard it before. Behind that, it's 22%. They think they can seed by guessing. Behind that, 17%, they don't have time. And of course, there's always a couple of fun people in here. 9% said, hey, learning's hard. But the majority of us says, hey, we didn't know they were new skills to learn. So go ahead, pull up the Q&A tab. And with that, Tom, I will throw it over to you.
Okay, so let's take a look at, they didn't know there was new skills to learn. And the thought about that is, where did they get this idea? Well, when they went to the opportunity meeting, what do we say at the opportunity meeting? Anybody can do this business. Now, the problem is we didn't finish our sentence. The whole sentence would sound like anybody can do this business badly. And it's being realistic that nobody can expect somebody to join a brand new profession and have all the skills automatic. So they didn't know there's new skills to learn. Our job is to say, okay, now you've joined, you have a mindset, you have goals. Let's make it happen, because it's not enough to have a good mindset if you're going to fly an airplane. You might want to have just a few skills. Some say they don't have the time. And we're going to talk about that time objection later on in the class here today, because that's a big one. How many people here have ever got that objection? Well, I just don't have time to do it, or I'm too busy. The third one is they think they can succeed by guessing. There's something called a Dunning-Kruger effect. It says we're way overconfident on the stuff that we're not very good at. So it's pretty natural when people say, yeah, I think I can pull it off. I mean, I'm just going to talk to people. That's all it is, just talk to people. Now, it's not talking to people correctly. It's talking to people. So they get the advice, just go out and talk to everybody. Everybody will want what we have to offer. Should be no problem. And of course, what happens? And last of all, learning is hard. Why do people refuse to read books? Why do people refuse to go to adult education classes? Learning is hard and reading is hard. They quickly get tired of it and say, I'd just rather just scroll TikTok or something like that. So this is what we're going to come up against. If we're going to get our new people going, we have to train them so they have the proper skills to be independent of us. Otherwise, we're going to be babysitting for the rest of our life. So let's get on to the first question this week. And this one is, why am I having so much trouble closing? My prospects don't want to make up their minds and keep delaying. Now, and this question here, we all know that closing happens early in the presentation, but I think what's being referred to here is after the presentation is done, we've wrapped it all up. They look at us, we look at them. They look at us, we look at them. Somebody's going to have to talk. And it's probably going to be us. And so when we talk, what are we going to say? So if somebody says to you in your team, why am I having so much trouble closing? At the very end, nobody's joining. what advice would you give them? So in the Q&A, based upon our classes and the books we've read, we all know there's multiple reasons, but in the Q&A, just suggest some of the reasons why somebody would have trouble closing the prospect at the very end of the presentation. You say, okay, what are some of those possible reasons could be? Number one, they may not have closing skills. Okay, that'd be a good one. What else? What else would hold them back? What would be some possible causes here? So, Keith, what do we have here for some suggestions on the possible causes that's making prospects delay and holding them back?
We got some good ones here. The easy sweat, not knowing what to say, or same as saying nothing. No rapport. Obviously, it's a huge, as we know, 80+% there. They didn't identify a problem. I know we're going to be covering a little bit on that as well. Because they didn't close before the presentation, more rapport. They didn't listen, no real need. Same with the problem. Too much info given. They probably blanked out after a couple minutes of not focusing on the prospect, scared of rejection. More rapport, confused, kind of same as info, more info, not following the training, what to say. They weren't confident, afraid of rejection. Yeah, all over the place, but a lot of the same stuff. So yeah, all good.
All right, so let's accept this, that, you know what, there's probably multiple ones, but let's focus on kind of the big one here. And in this question, it says, they keep delaying. And we can say, well, that is so common. What causes this delay? And here's a saying that we should all memorize. The purpose of business is to solve people's problems. The purpose of business is to solve people's problems. There is no business unless there's a problem. I mean, if nobody got hungry, restaurants would be out of business. If nobody ever got fat, diet products would never be sold. If people lived forever, we couldn't sell supplements. So the back of our mind, the number one thing is the purpose of business is to solve people's problems. Now, in the slide here, it says if they don't have a big enough problem, there's no motivation to act now. So if the problem is kind of small, they can live with it, it's probably easier for them to delay, procrastinate. We should answer the question here is what is holding them back? So the purpose of business is to solve people's problems. If the problem is not big enough, so you say, okay, I kind of got it. The prospects are talking to, they're trying to close, but there's not much incentive for them to close. There's no motivation for them to act right now. So our motivation here is to make sure our prospect has a big enough problem that they're going to go into action instead of hibernation. So here's the example I use. You can use it with your team, but this is a very easy one. You say a dentist. So in the dentist example, I say you get a postcard from your dentist saying it's time for your annual checkup. You look at the postcard, throw it over your shoulder and say, well, my teeth feel fine. I'll do it next year. But get a toothache, and what happens? That's a problem. Our face is swollen out to here. We can only see out of one eye, pounding headache. So what do? We call up the dentist and say, hey, I got this problem. The dentist says, well, I can see you in about 3 weeks. I say, what do you mean 3 weeks? I got this problem now. The dentist says, well, I'm already booked. They say, well, I tell you what, I'll just come in and sit on the sofa in the waiting room. If somebody cancels, I'll take their place. If nobody cancels, look inside my mouth. I want to have this fixed. And so we see the difference here. When the problem is big enough, we don't have to push much to get the motivation for them to act. So what we want to do is make sure the problem is big enough. So here's the question. How can we enhance or increase our prospects' dissatisfaction with their problem? So how can we take their ordinary problem that they're not motivated on and increase their dissatisfaction? And the answer is through questions. by asking questions, it's going to slow down the thought process. They're going to focus more on the problem. And the more they focus on it, the bigger it gets into their mind. So here is the first question that we can use to help overcome this problem. So the problem is big enough in the prospect's minds so they will take action. So here it is. It starts off with, how does it feel? So if you can memorize how does it feel and just start filling in the blanks, it's going to be an easy thing to do. So how does it feel to, when you have this pain or discomfort, depending on your regulatory area? Or how does it feel when you see your electricity bill every month? Oh, I feel like I'm going to have a coronary. Or how does it feel at 6 a.m. when the alarm goes off and they say, well, I absolutely have no feelings and I'm just dead to the world. It's just awful. Or how does it feel when the boss says you have to work Saturdays? Now, this will only work if we've done the principles like we mentioned before, which is we've got to find out if they have a problem before we even start our presentation. That's our rapport. But if we know the problem, we can say, how does it feel, to enhance it in their minds. So in the Q&A, what questions could we use to make our prospects feel worse? So in the Q&A, you could put in how does it feel and the problem that you run across, or if you want to use a different question, okay. But we need to be able to up the emotional motivation, and problems really bother people. Bigger problems bother them a lot. Intense problems like that toothache. We don't even have to be a salesman. Remember, the dentist wasn't a salesman. He didn't have to say, well, here's our plan, here's the options. No, they just said, take the tooth out or fix it. They don't have to be a salesperson because the problem is so big. So, Keith, what do we have here for a couple ideas of what they could say to make the problem worse?
All right, a couple come in here. How does it feel when a staff member quits because they can't take their workplace drama anymore? That's a good one for business professionals. How does it feel to keep working 40 hours a week to build your boss's fortune? Let's see. How does it feel when you can't hide your... Oh, let me go back to that one here. How does it feel to get by at minimum wage doing your job? How does it feel? You might have to work 40 years just like your parents. How does it feel to work another year with a 2% raise? How does it feel to always be sick with a cold? Even straight to the point. How's aging feeling? Yeah, people will open up on that one. How does it feel when you have to pay more taxes? Let's see. Just do a couple more. How does it feel having to buy bigger sizes in clothes? We got a ton. Do one more here. Feel for your money to be paying utility bills rather than swimming lessons that your child wants. So good emotional attachment word picture. So keep them coming in. Back over to you.
Wow, I love the one, how is aging feeling? Yeah, I got to keep that one as added to my list of sound bites. So you see, it's very easy to enhance it in their mind. You say, okay, so what else can we do here? And the answer is reverse psychology using negative word pictures. If you're not familiar with word pictures, it's when we say, when you join our business, here is what happens. We take them into the future and show them, the wonderful benefits of our business. But negative would be when you don't join our business, here's what happens, and you take them in the future and show them the negative. So what we're going to do is reverse psychology. And that is, instead of us selling them, well, let's take a look at this. Who is a better salesperson? Us or our prospect? So very quickly, in the Q&A, vote. Who do you think is a better salesperson? Us or our prospect? If we're going to get somebody to close and somebody's going to have to do the selling, who's going to be the better salesperson? I see a couple people on it already. B, our prospect. Our prospect is going to listen to themselves way before they trust and listen and believe us. So what we're going to do is reverse psychology and make our prospect sell themselves. If they're able to sell themselves, we can just stand back and let it happen. And of course, then we don't have to push on the motivation. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to allow our prospects to sell themselves using their own negative word picture. They will create it themselves in their mind, and it'll be much more real because they'll have the whole background. They know the situation. And when they create this movie, they have to write it. So it forces them to describe the consequences. They're going to have to be able to tell us this. So they're going to tell us the script. So it's going to cause them to think about it. So they're going to tell us why they're not joining or not buying or what's going to happen if they don't do it. And how we're going to create this is with a simple question. And here's the question. What will happen if you don't join our business? Now, if we have some rapport here, we're having a conversation instead of pushy sales pitch. If we say toward the end there, well, what will happen if you don't join our business? Now, remember, the problem's pretty big in their mind. And they're going to say, wow, well, I'm going to have to start describing what will happen. And they could talk about their pain, their frustration, how long they've had the problem, that it's been festering all this time. They've been looking for a solution. So when we say, what will happen if you don't join our business? Be quiet and let them create their own story to sell themselves. You say, okay, I think I could do that. So can I use some different prompts for this? And the answer is, yeah, we're pros here. So let's try a couple of different prompts here. Here's the first one here. You could say, if you don't start your own business now, notice how we're making the decision right now. Do you see yourself always working for someone else? So if their problem was, I'm tired of working for the boss, or I hate the boss, or I want more freedom, that'd be a good one. You say, all right, what else? If they can't come up with their own negative word picture, what else could I say to kind of prompt it along? So you could say, well, what do you think will happen next year if you decide, notice how we're putting that in, not to make any changes this year? So that means thinking it over is deciding not to make any changes. So thinking it over is a decision. It's a decision not to do it. So remember, the best way to close is with the minimum amount of choices. It's binary. Either take our wonderful offer or continue our miserable lives. So what we're doing is letting them know that if they decide not to do it, if they want to procrastinate, they are making a conscious decision not to do it. All right, so let's take a look at a couple more prompts that could help us with this technique. Let's try this one. Do you think your job routine, 5 days a week, 2 weeks vacation every year, will ever change? Now, if you're from Europe, you might laugh at this because you get 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 weeks vacation every year. But in the United States, it's 2 weeks. In some countries in Asia, it's only 1 week vacation every year. But do you think your job routine will ever change? You have to do this for the rest of your life? And they start thinking, no, it's not going to change on its own. I'm going to have to do something here. This is a very soft one. So if you don't want to be pushy, you're super yellow, you're super self-conscious, just say this. I see you're stressing about risking a change in your daily life. Why not just relax and enjoy your life as it is? They say, well, all I have to do then is just sit back and let them give me the reasons why they shouldn't relax and why they should do this. And again, they're selling themselves. So what we want to do is turn them into a salesman for us. And that way we're not that pushy person that's going to get rejected. All they do is sit back and sell themselves. So here's the next question. Are y'all ready? We got these scripts here. And you say, well, you don't have to make a decision to start your business tonight. If we start with that one, they're going to say, wait a minute, I'm off the hook. Thank you. And they're going to relax. But we're going to continue. Remember, it's binary here. Instead, you can make a decision to not start your own business and keep your present job routine. And you're thinking, wow, what does that tell me? That tells them that, all right, you're not pressuring me to do it, but if I don't do it, it's totally up to me. I'm going to feel really bad. So again, reverse psychology takes all the stress of rejection away from us. And it sounds so natural to say, hey, you don't have to make a decision to start your own business tonight. Instead, you can make a decision to not start your own business and keep your present job routine. Keep your life the same. Keep getting up at 6 a.m. working for a boss you hate and fighting traffic. And you can fill in the blanks here, but it goes as far as you want. But again, what do we make them do? Make a decision, a conscious decision, one way or another. So let's try another one, because these prompts are going to be super helpful at the end for some powerful closing without us exposing ourselves to rejection. This one is, you might be thinking my daily routine isn't so bad. Maybe I'll keep living this way. That's also a good decision. Do you think that might be best for you? For them to answer that question, there's a little presupposition going on here. They have to accept what we said is true, or else the question won't make sense. So they say, yeah, my daily routine, maybe it's not as bad as I thought. I could keep living this way. And that's a good decision. So, okay, no pressure from you, but do I think that might be best for me? And they're thinking, no, it's not best for me. Give them a chance to give you the reasons why it's not best for them. And when you get through, you can use Bernie D'Souza's famous line. After they tell them all the reasons, you say, well, yeah, I agree, or that's what I thought. And when we agree with them, it's over. So, all of these different prompts are powerful for closing from reverse psychology. And we don't have to say, will it join? Want to give it a try? Would you please do this? We don't have to do any of that. So let's move on. Here's the next question here. What if I can't find a problem for my prospect? And it could have, maybe they're kind of introverted, or maybe they're kind of closed. We don't have the strongest rapport, and they're not exposing anything. They're afraid that we're a salesman. The question was, if I can't find a problem, can I still sell a tremendous benefit? We got this unique patented compensation plan that nobody else has, with a special feature in. And our founder won an award, and our company has this special. There's probably some tremendous benefits we may have, but can I still get the same result by trying to sell a benefit? So in the Q&A, what's your opinion on this? What if you can't find a problem? Do you think that we can still do it by selling the benefit? So in the Q&A, what's your vote? Can I sell a benefit? Yes or no? And Keith, what do we have here for some votes about selling a benefit even when they don't have a problem?
Interesting, actually. It's looking like 60% yes, 40% no, just by eyeballing. So very split on this one. Very interesting. Keep them coming in.
Okay. And the answer to that question is yes, but it's a lot harder. There's a famous saying that goes like this: the fear of loss is greater than the desire for gain. The fear of loss is greater than the desire for gain. Remember, fear is a very strong emotion. And how do people make decisions to do things? Via emotion, not from logic, via emotion. So most of the time when we present a tremendous benefit, we do it as facts and features and not as a real true benefit that will get them emotionally charged and involved. So if we are going to say, all right, they don't have a problem, but I'm really going to sell the features and benefits of our company, I really have to put some emotion into it. So remember, the fear of loss is always greater than the desire for gain. It can be done, but it's going to take a lot more work and a lot more skill. And not that we want to be lazy, but we do want to be efficient. So take the easier route is probably be best for most of us. And if we're not getting any problems, ask ourselves, why? Am I talking too quick? I'm too excited about giving them all my benefits. I'm not listening to them, which means I can't personalize my presentation of them. So here's the next question. I tried teaching last week's class to my group, and they resisted. Why? So last week's class, if you remember, was about overcoming fear and rejection, which is huge. We have to think, we know the benefits of our business is really good, so why don't they just logically do it? And the answer is the emotion fear. It's not like they don't realize the benefits there, but their fear of what could happen, the fear of the expectations of the result or the feedback they're going to get, gives them that fear, and their survival program kicks in and says, all right, I can't do it. But in your opinion, based upon last week, this person said, I tried to teach the class to my group, but they resisted trying to do all these things to get rid of rejection. Why do you think that is? So in the Q&A, what is your opinion why, even after showing the group that will fix all your fear and rejection, that many still resisted what's being taught and for even doing it? And thinking, gee, that's strange. Why do you think they would hold back even after you've solved the problem? So Keith, what do we have here for, I don't know, some reason that would make people do this even though we've solved the problem for them?
Everything from because they haven't experienced what you've taught. So that makes a huge one there. They could, the fear of change, outside your comfort zone, very similar there. Lack of confidence in themselves. They don't believe it will work. So very similar to they haven't experienced what they've taught me yet. Perhaps also didn't get it, but okay. So they want to experience it first as well. Let's see. Overconfident, they're not buying into it yet. So very similar ones keep them coming in.
Okay, now this is not the only answer, but this is one answer. And the answer why, after being trained on this, they still resisted is their fear is so huge it prevented them from change. And in their mind, it says, wait a minute, if I overcome my fear, then I have to go out and I still might have fear. So they are maybe beaten down, maybe had so many bad experiences that it's pretty traumatic. It's going to take a long time to change their mindset about this. They realize that if they accept what was taught, they'd have to actually go out and talk to people. And their fear is so huge, they won't step forward. The answer to this is we probably should accept their limitations. You say, why? He says, well, if you take this person, put them on a psychologist's sofa, and talk to them and rebuild them for 5 years, it can be done. But how many people did you fail to serve over those 5 years? I say, well, yeah, that's kind of sad. They say, well, but I don't have anybody else to work with. Well, maybe we should have the skill of getting more people to work with. But we should accept their limitations. Don't push them way out of their comfort zone and say, all right, that's the way it is. What we have to do is wait for them to have, I don't know, some breakthroughs or more personal development to build up their confidence. That could be by them just being on the weekly calls and just hearing it over and over again and using the spaced repetition. which is I hear this message over and over again. And even a lie, if it's repeated so many times, the mind will eventually say, well, it's probably true. It will take some people a long time to overcome their past. Now, everybody here in this call has already done that, so it's a little bit hard for us to relate. But try to think back sometime in your life where your fear is so huge, even though you knew what to do, you would refuse to do it. And it's going to take time. Nobody becomes a super confident superhero overnight. So don't push them way beyond once you've done this. Accept a little bit where they are and allow them to grow at their rate. So let's do the next one. Next question was explain analogies again and how to use this with prospects. So for those not familiar with analogies, it's where you compare something to something else. An example would be eating this hot chili pepper is like taking a hot fire blowtorch and putting it inside of your mouth. It helps people understand. So that's an analogy. We're comparing it to something else, something they already know. And the answer to this is the human brain learns new things by comparing to what it already knows. If you come up with a brand new concept just out of the blue, the human brain can't get its head around it. It has nothing to compare it to. So the answer is the human brain learns new things by comparing it to information or beliefs it already has. So analogy for our business is a great way of getting prospects to understand maybe sophisticated concepts in a heartbeat. So here's some examples of analogies. Here's the first one here. It says residual income is similar, that would be a hint, to getting royalties from a song. How many of us have ever used that analogy? And we say, well, they may not understand the term residual income, but they do understand that if somebody had a really hit song, they get paid over and over again. And now the concept of residual income means something more to them than just a known concept. All right, here's the next one. You'll feel like, so feel like, and you say, okay, that's an analogy. You'll feel like you're 16 years old all over again, but with better judgment. People say, well, I can remember when I was 16 years old and I could stay up all night and party and then still go to school the next day, didn't even sleep and still get by. Yeah, I remember that. So this product will make me feel that way. I can relate. That's better than saying, well, your mitochondria will kick in at an 80% ratio or something like that, because it won't be able to relate to that. Or you could say, you will feel the energy of a 10-year-old on Saturday morning. And they say, all right, I can understand that analogy. Because when I was 10 years old, I woke up on Saturday morning, the whole weekend free. I was just thrilled out of my mind, unlimited energy. I didn't need my mom to wake me up. They get it. So skincare, you could say, for an analogy, you won't look like you graduated from the clown school of makeup. And they go, whoa, that's quite a word picture. But if you don't use our products, you might look that way. So that analogy puts something in their mind where they can say, yeah, I understand it. You don't have to explain a nice, long explanation. So we all have our favorite analogies. So in the Q&A, what is your best analogy? What analogy do you like using all the time? And you say, okay, what do I need for an analogy? You say, well, I guess I use the family tree analogy that you sponsor people that are like your children and then your grandchildren. That's an analogy to help people understand maybe the compensation plan. What else could I do? So Keith, let me turn it over to you. What are some analogies that people are using right here that helps take a complicated, long explanation, boring thing and just compare it to something in their mind where they say, man, I totally got it. So what do we have here?
No, yeah, we definitely have one that's been around forever. It still works. This business is no different. To you, then you recommending a restaurant that you like. The difference is the restaurant won't pay you. We will. The money you get each month is like a pension scheme, obviously it's UK version there, that pays us for life, even if we don't work. Let's see, our business is like being a real estate broker, except we don't sell real estate. Like kind of a middleman approach on that one. Let's see. Keiko's coming in. I'll answer some of these in the background.
All right, and here's a few more in case you don't have any that you like to use. This one is with our weekly bonuses every Friday will feel like a Christmas bonus. And people remember, yeah, I remember I get the Christmas bonus check. I'm pretty excited about it. So I feel that way every Friday with your bonus plan. Yeah, it's a nice analogy. Or this is kind of a negative one here. Our work cubicles feel like prison cells, only smaller. And that creates a negative word picture in their mind, and they just get the idea, yeah, I don't want to be in a cubicle. A networker without a goal is like a ship without a rudder, or a car without a steering wheel. You say, okay, that is why we should have goals. So at least we can point in the right direction. Just takes a complicated thing, focus it, and let's move on. Here's the next question here. I can't get appointments for presentations. Why is that? All right, let's take a look here. Let's do number one. Oh, you're using the presentation word. Remember, it's always better to use the options word. So if you're saying, I'd like to give you a presentation, that word might trigger the salesman alarm. Presentation, you're going to try to sell me something. So let me put off and delay and avoid getting that appointment. Number two, if you have trouble getting appointments, why not use the benefit plus permission icebreaker in the book, The Happy Network Marketer? The benefit plus permission is in the icebreaker, we give our best benefit and we give them permission to ask us for more information. If they do, that's how we set the appointment. So you might be at work and you say, I figure I can quit my job here on January. Would you like to know my plan? Permission. And the person says, yeah. And you say, well, then we should talk. And the person says, when? And it's done. The reason they're holding back is if they don't know what it's about, they're fearing a sales presentation. But if they want to know what it's about, they eagerly will accept it. Here's another reason. If we're not letting people know, it triggers their sales alarm in this way. You say, well, before you come over, what's it all about? Have we heard that? That's their mind saying, before I invest the time, let me make a quick and instant decision. So if we're withholding that information as well, I have to show you, it's sort of visual. It doesn't answer the question, which is, I'd like to make a quick decision before I invest the time. The last one here, D, is it's okay to say no. I just didn't want to feel guilty not letting you know. That's kind of a shortcut for, if you remember from the appointment book, it goes like this. I'm perfectly comfortable with your decision if you want to look at my business or not. I don't know your current situation. But I was uncomfortable not letting you know and having you think that I didn't care. So if you want a shorter version here, just for the masterclass, you can start off before you even try to get an appointment. You can say to somebody, it's okay to say no. And they say, oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. No more stress, no more resistance. I just didn't want to feel guilty not letting you know. Oh, so that's why you want to talk to me, so you don't feel guilty. But I'm kind of curious what it's all about. Tell me more. So that's a nice way of making sure we don't get rejection. And people say, okay, I can set aside some time for an appointment. Let's do the next question here. Can you explain the bad news, but and good news technique again? Here's how it works. If you tell people the bad news first, it's better. And if you tell them the good news first and then give them the bad news, it's not as good. Here's an example here in this next slide here. This product will work for you, but it is expensive. And as soon as they hear the word but, the negativity kicks in. It stops your mind and says, but. So you could say, by reversing it, yes, this product is expensive, but you'll finally have something that will work. I say, oh, that seems better. Why does that work so good? By putting the good thing after the word but. And here's some reasons why this technique works. So if you have an objection you get all the time, just use this technique. So here's the first one, recency. Our mind can only have one thought at a time. That's it. So they have to forget the first part of our phrase, so listen to the second part, because that's a different thought. So they're going to forget about the bad part while they listen to and try to understand the good part. Second thing is, remember, this is all in one sentence. So prospects need a little bit of time to internalize what we say. So if we say, this is bad, but stops their mind. And they say, wait, I got to clear my mind for the next thing. They say, all right, so I'm not remembering that too much because I need to concentrate on this. The human mind is pretty weak. The conscious part of our mind can only hold one thought at a time. Let's do the next reason. When we admit to an objection, we take away part of its power. It's not like a surprise or something we're defensive about. Well, if we bring it out first, it shows that we're confident, and it takes away the power of that objection. If you're doubtful about this, just think about the words, I love you. If you say, I love you, but, just think of how that feeling is going to go. And you said, but I have this criticism. But if you start off by saying, I have this criticism, but I love you, remember, the I love you part is going to have more impact. So always try to use that technique for all the negativity. And here's the formula. You give the flaw first, then the word but, then add a benefit. And remember, the prospect's always going to remember the second half of it. Here's the next question. My prospects complain at the end of the presentation that they're too busy to do my business. What can I say? All right. Well, let's take a look at the problems here. Did we get a big enough problem? Maybe not. Did we enhance the problem in their mind with questions? Maybe not. Did we even bother to check if they wanted to fix that problem? Maybe not. If we said, how long have you had this problem, to get them to think about it longer so it stays in their mind? Probably not. And did we ask, what will happen if you don't fix this problem? If we didn't do any of these, well, they might say, yeah, I'm just too busy to do this. I can't be bothered. But here's another way of handling it a little bit more professionally. You can do this. You can say, do you expect to be busy in the future? And people say, well, yeah, I always expect to be busy in the future. I use up 24 hours a day every day of my life. Yeah, so we say, well, life is always busy. We can start while we're busy. And it takes the power away from saying I'm just too busy, because people are always busy. And here's the last question. What is the micro story formula? When in doubt, for any marketing challenge that we have, here's a little 3-step micro story formula. It may not be the absolute best way, but it will always be a good way, and usually the best way. People listen to stories, believe stories, they relate to stories. It's automatic. So here's the micro story formula. Number 1, rapport. We start off by saying, here's you and I, us, everybody. This is what we want, the dream. Here's a problem that stands in the way. Typical story. There's no story unless there's a problem. The Lion King's father dies, Bambi's mothers die, etc. And we have to give them an action at the end that will fix the problem, and they will feel great with the dream outcome. Just 3 steps. So no matter what we come up with is a problem, or an objection, or hold us back, this little story formula just really does it really, really well. So if you can think about how to use it, if we just take a random thing like diet protein powder, we could say, we're overweight, but we really want to be slim. But there's a problem. We don't have time for exercise, and diet food tastes like garbage. But this protein shake, if we drink it every morning for breakfast instead of our normal greasy breakfast, we'll lose weight and feel great about ourselves because we'll look great. Just a simple marketing concept here. Remember these 3 steps, and you can solve almost any presentation problem. So let's take a look at next week. Next week, the masterclass is goals are good, but what is better? They say, well, I thought goals was everything, man. Everybody talks about goals. But here's a question. Did we achieve or forget our New Year's goals? And what can we do about it? How many people here, you don't have to put it in the Q&A, but how many people here set a goal on New Year's and can't quite remember what it was? Or it's totally hasn't had anything done with it, or it's not moving along? And if that is us, we're perfectly normal. Most people love to set goals. It's the easiest part to have the dream or wish. But what is better than that might have a better chance of working? We're going to spend next week saying, all right, everybody has goals, but hey, what can we do to start reaching them? All right, homework. Number 1, remember those people that are fearful or just not doing much, and maybe gets on our weekly calls or don't answer our phone sometimes? They might need to rebuild from the ground up because of things that happened in their past. Let's be cognizant of that, and let's have some empathy. So tell them to get on Facebook group. That's totally free. Download the book, the free book, Happy Networker. That's totally free. Help them out. Help them start rebuilding their life, their self-esteem, and their image. Homework number 2. If you can, finish the sentence. I had a New Year's goal, but if you remember from the coaching call Keith did, whatever happens after the word but is the real inside reason that's holding us back. It's easy to coach on that. And finish that sentence, but, and take a look at it and says, okay, I know exactly what I need to address. And homework number 3, get our accountability partner to practice with us. It's what we learn in these classes. They may not be in the class, but at least we can have an accountability partner and say, let me practice these closing prompts that I learned in class. I want you to listen to them, see how natural they are, tell me any feedback on it. Don't just finish the class here and never use it. Practice with, hopefully, an accountability partner. And practice gives us the experience, and it helps us build that habit. So, Keith, let me turn it over to you.
All right, terrific. Once again, everyone, thank you so much for, if you're with us live, for interacting. There's a couple of questions I answered in the back. Just for clarification, feel free to send us an email with follow-up on those, and look forward to connecting with everybody next week. We'll also send out the replay tomorrow morning. That way you can stream it at your convenience. And with the Zoom replays, it's great. You can stream it at 1.5, 2x speed, and that way you have unlimited access to that. And we'll catch everybody next week. Thanks again.